Have you ever had a moment when everything in you screamed, "Give up," but something deeper whispered, "Keep going"? That quiet, unseen battle right there is where destiny is shaped. Not in front of an audience, not under a spotlight, but in the silence behind closed doors when no one's clapping and every part of you wants to quit. That's where the real fight lives, and that's where discipline wins. Discipline doesn't come wrapped in motivation. It's not loud. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't announce itself. Discipline is humble. It's the quiet force that shows up consistently day after day, even when nothing feels exciting. It's waking up at 5 unearned a.m. when your entire body says, "Just 5 more minutes." It's opening the book when your brain says, "Let's just scroll instead." It's choosing to pray, to work, to create, to show up. Not because you feel like it, but because you're committed to something bigger than how you feel. We live in a world obsessed with feelings. Follow your heart. Move when you're inspired. Wait until the timing feels right. But let me tell you the truth. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll never move. Because feelings, they fluctuate. They lie. One minute you're passionate, next minute you're paralyzed. One moment you're all in, the next you're filled with doubt. But discipline, that's different. Discipline is a decision made in your soul, not in your mood. It's not about hype. It's about habit. It's not about being in the perfect headspace. It's about trusting the process even when the process feels painful. And when discipline is rooted in purpose, nothing can shake it. Not failure, not fear, not fatigue. Because purpose pulls you forward when motivation runs dry. God never called you to live by your feelings. He called you to live by faith. And faith doesn't always feel good. Faith doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes faith looks like obedience in the dark. Sometimes faith looks like walking with a limp. Sometimes it's saying yes when your heart is breaking, when your energy is low, and your breakthrough hasn't come yet, but you still show up. That's discipline. That's spiritual grit. That's the difference between those who only dream and those who build. Some of you have dreams that are gathering dust, not because they aren't real, not because you don't care, but because you've been waiting to feel ready. You keep saying, "Tomorrow I'll start." Then tomorrow turns into next week, and next week turns into next year. Before you know it, you're stuck, not because you're not gifted, but because your emotions have been running the show. You've let temporary feelings decide the fate of an eternal calling. But hear this. The greatest transformations in your life won't come when it's easy. They won't show up when everything aligns perfectly. They will come in the moments when it's hardest, and you show up anyway. When your body says no, but your spirit says, "Let's go." When the world says quit, but something inside burns, keep walking. That's where character is formed. That's where legacy is born. That's not hype. That's holy obedience. We live in a world addicted to fast success, to overnight wins, to viral moments. But God, He's still in the business of slow shaping. He builds in silence. He refines in obscurity. He forms leaders in the shadows, away from the noise. Those who rise to the top, they didn't get there by riding waves of inspiration. They got there by choosing discipline when everything else told them to quit. They moved when everything around them said, "Just wait." They trained their minds to obey what their spirit already knew. And what your spirit knows right now is this: you were made for more. You weren't created to sleep through your calling. You weren't designed to drift through life on autopilot. There's an enemy that wants you to settle, that wants you numb, distracted, afraid. He doesn't need to destroy you, he just needs you comfortable. He'll whisper, "Take it easy, play it safe, tomorrow's fine." But discipline wakes you up. Discipline says, "We're moving anyway." Discipline says, "Let's go," even tired, even uncertain, even afraid. Because the truth is, God can do more with your obedience than you could ever do with your motivation. And if you keep showing up, you'll see every ordinary moment of discipline becomes a brick in the foundation of something extraordinary. So, are you ready to show up even when it's hard? There comes a moment when something deeper than motivation grabs hold of you. It doesn't ask politely. It doesn't wait for convenience. It grabs you by the soul and says, "Get up. You've got work to do, and this kind of discipline." It's not something you stumble upon when life feels just right. It's not born out of good vibes or perfect timing. No discipline is built. It's built quietly, day by day. Choice by choice, small action by small action. It starts with the little things that might seem insignificant. You make your bed even when no one will see it. You write the paragraph even when the page feels empty. You go on that walk, send that email, take that deep breath, and say, "Let's go again." Every time you choose discipline, you send a message to your future, "I'm coming for you." I'm not waiting for the stars to align. I'm not waiting until I feel unstoppable. I'm moving forward, flawed, tired, maybe even terrified, but I'm moving all the same. There are sacred moments, quiet moments, where God whispers in your spirit, "Go." But because we're waiting to feel ready, we miss the invitation. We miss the moment. Discipline is how you say yes to God. Not just with words, but with motion, with obedience, with courage in the face of uncertainty. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. That's the kind of obedience that turns ordinary lives into unforgettable testimonies. So if you're sitting there thinking, "But I don't feel ready good," that means you're human. That means you're exactly where you need to be. Because God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for availability. He's not waiting on your confidence. He's waiting on your yes. And sometimes you just have to force yourself to take the step. Not because it's comfortable. Not because everything makes sense. But because it's time. Because discipline isn't about emotion. It's about faith. You can dream big. You can write vision boards. You can speak affirmations into the mirror every morning. But if your feet don't move, those dreams remain just that, dreams. Hope without action, that's noise. Prayer without obedience, that's delay. And faith. Real faith moves. It moves through fear. It moves through doubt. It moves even when the road ahead is invisible, because it trusts the one who called it. A lot of people say, "I'm waiting on God." But if we're being honest, God's been waiting on you. He already gave the word. He already planted the seed. He already opened the door. But you're still standing there asking for another sign. Let me be real with you. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another sign from the sky. You need to take a step. And here's the truth about that first step: it won't always feel holy. It won't always come with goosebumps and worship music playing in the background. It might feel awkward. It might feel scary. You might shake. But God doesn't bless hesitation. He blesses movement. Think back to every miracle in Scripture. The water didn't part until feet touched it. The walls didn't fall until they were walked around. The blind didn't see until they cried out. God responds to faith in motion. He responds to those who say, "Lord, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I believe you will. And I'm walking toward it anyway." Too many believers know how to talk about the promise, but they're too afraid to walk into it. They can sing about freedom, yet stay locked in cages of fear and procrastination. Let me remind you, faith isn't passive. It's not soft. It's not sitting in the corner hoping life magically changes. Faith is bold. Faith is aggressive. Faith gets up. Faith knocks on doors. Faith walks into rooms where it doesn't feel qualified and says, "God sent me." There's something in you that's too powerful to stay dormant. You can't keep praying for change while refusing to be the change. You can't ask God to open the door if you're not willing to turn the handle. So once you stop waiting for another sign and finally take that first step, however shaky, it's not just movement. It's faith in motion. Because real faith isn't just what you believe deep down, it's how you live because of what you believe. Faith isn't passive. It's not just a quiet thought or a good intention. Faith is action. If you truly believe God is who He says He is, if you believe He called you, if you believe His word is true, then you've got to move. Like the promise is already unfolding. Walk like the answer is on its way. Speak like the door is already unlocked. Show up like favor is already written across your name. Because here's the truth. It's not perfection that activates favor. It's not comfort either. It's action. Some of you are waiting for everything to fall into place, for the timing to be perfect, the emotions to line up, the signs to be unmistakable. But God doesn't usually work through comfort. He works through courage. He's not waiting for you to feel ready. He's simply asking, are you willing? And when you move, even just a little, that's when God begins to multiply. Yes, sometimes waiting is wise. But let's be honest, not all waiting is wisdom. Sometimes what we call waiting is just fear in disguise. Sometimes it's delayed obedience. And let's call that what it really is, disobedience. When God has already given you the instruction. When you feel the burden rise again and again in your spirit. When the call won't go quiet, no matter how much you try to distract yourself. That is your sign. And ignoring it isn't caution, it's rebellion wrapped in anxiety. But the good news, God is merciful. Always. He meets us the moment we move. He honors the tiniest step of obedience. And let me say this clearly, movement doesn't always mean a giant leap. Sometimes it looks like a slow crawl forward. Sometimes it's doing the small thing, the quiet, unglamorous thing that no one claps for. But it still counts. Forward is forward. Don't despise the small beginnings. Don't wait for flashing lights or fireworks to validate your direction. Heaven celebrates the kind of obedience that nobody sees. Every time you override your doubt, every time you silence the voice that says, you're not enough, and choose to obey anyway, you're walking in faith, and that kind of faith. That's the one thing that moves the heart of God. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to feel strong every day. You just need to be willing to say yes. Yes to discipline. Yes to discomfort. Yes to the unknown. Yes to what doesn't make sense yet. Because when your yes turns into action, heaven moves with you. So if your faith is real, if your obedience is active, then don't just sit there hoping something will magically shift. Don't keep praying the same prayer over and over while refusing to move your feet. Prayer is powerful, but faith without action is empty. You've got to get your hands on the plow. You've got to move. Because when you move, heaven responds. God honors movement. He breathes on obedience. And when your step meets His word, miracles begin to follow. You were never called to live a life of comfort. Comfort may feel safe, it may look like peace, but more often than not, it's a trap. It lures you in with the promise of ease, predictability, and security. But it quietly steals your purpose. It numbs your courage. It slowly drains your calling. Because your calling, your purpose. They don't live in the safe zone. They live in the stretch zone, in the unfamiliar, the unpredictable, the uncomfortable. They live in the places that demand faith just to take the next step. There's a reason so many people never tap into their full potential. It's not because they lack talent. It's not because they don't have dreams. It's because they're afraid to leave what feels familiar. They're too in love with comfort. But let me tell you something straight. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. Nothing transforms there. Nothing multiplies there. You want to see change in your life. You want to witness the hand of God move in a way that leaves you speechless. Then you've got to step out of what's familiar. You've got to be willing to do the hard thing, the scary thing, the uncertain thing. The longer you stay wrapped in what's predictable, the more you stunt your own growth. The more you coast, the further you drift from your calling. Comfort is deceptive. It makes you think you've arrived when you're actually stuck. It convinces you that what you've done is enough when God is calling you into more. Because here's the truth. When you stop growing, you start fading. When you stop stretching, you stop living. There's always a deeper level of obedience, a higher level of trust. There's always more that God wants to reveal if you're willing to move forward. If you're not growing, you're going backward. If you're not being stretched, you're being stagnated. And stagnation is the slow death of potential. Now listen, I know it's tempting to make excuses. We all want to stay where it's safe, where we feel in control, where the outcome is predictable. But here's the paradox. The safest place for your comfort is the most dangerous place for your calling, because it's in that safe place where dreams go to die. It's in that safe place where your gifts stay hidden, unused, undeveloped. And that fire in your heart, it slowly dims until you forget it was ever there. Fear will always whisper reasons to stay. It will say, it's too risky. What if you fail? You're not enough. But if you listen to that voice, you'll forfeit everything God designed you to walk in. You can't afford to stay where it's comfortable. You weren't made for average. You weren't created to settle. You weren't designed to just survive. You were called to rise into risk, to rise into uncertainty, to rise into the extraordinary future God has already prepared for you. So stop shrinking to fit what feels safe. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start trusting the God who called you. If you're serious about seeing God's promises fulfilled in your life, there's one thing you have to do: step out of the comfort zone. Not just talk about it, not just pray about it, but actually move boldly, intentionally into the uncomfortable places where growth lives and miracles happen. Now, let's get this straight. Stepping out doesn't mean everything suddenly gets easy. It doesn't mean all the pieces fall perfectly into place, or that the path lights up like a movie scene. No, stepping out in faith means walking into the unknown, fully aware there will be challenges, opposition, and uncertainty. There will be moments when you question the call, moments when you look around and think, why did I do this? Is it even worth it? But hear me. Those exact moments, those gritty, soul-stretching moments, are where your character is forged. That's where resilience is born. That's where your faith matures, not in theory, but in real-life fire. Because every time you face a challenge head-on and choose not to back down, you get stronger. Every time you confront fear and still move forward, your courage multiplies. Every time you push through, when quitting would have been easier, something inside you transforms. Think about the giants of faith we admire. Do you think Moses felt comfortable standing toe-to-toe with Pharaoh, the most powerful man on earth at the time? Do you think his knees weren't shaking when he said, "Let my people go"? Do you think David felt fully confident when he walked toward Goliath, armed with nothing but a sling and some stones? He wasn't some superhero. He was a shepherd boy. But he knew something deeper. My God is bigger. They weren't comfortable, but they were convinced. They were convinced that God was greater than their fears, stronger than their enemies, and more faithful than their feelings. And that conviction pulled them out of safety and into purpose. And what happened next? God showed up. Miracles unfolded. Waters parted. Giants fell. Nations were changed. But none of that would have happened if they stayed inside their comfort zones. And the same applies to you. The impossible doesn't become possible while you stay nestled inside predictable routines. Breakthrough doesn't happen while you're clinging to what feels safe. The miraculous begins the moment you say, "God, I don't have it all figured out, but I trust you enough to move." That's the kind of step that unlocks doors you never even knew existed. That's the kind of faith that causes heaven to respond. God's not asking for a flawless plan. He's asking for a willing heart, a step, a decision, an act of obedience even if it's scary. So don't let fear keep you paralyzed one more day. Don't let comfort, disguised as security, keep stealing your purpose. You weren't created to stay small. You weren't made for mediocrity. You were formed for more, crafted for greatness. And greatness doesn't grow in the shallow waters of convenience. It grows in the deep. It grows in the wilderness. It grows in the uncertain places where you have to depend on God like never before. You want to live a bold, powerful life that reflects the fullness of who God created you to be. Then get uncomfortable. Step into the unknown. Let your feet walk where your faith leads. Because the truth is, if God is for you, then who or what can truly stand against you? Today, you have a choice. You can keep dancing around your calling. Keep dipping your toes in the water of someday. Keep waiting until you feel ready. Or, you can make a decision. A clear, intentional line in the sand moment where you say, I'm done letting comfort lead me. I'm done choosing fear. I'm done living like God's promises aren't real. Step into the wild with Him. Yes, the comfort zone may feel familiar, but don't confuse familiarity with freedom. Because the comfort zone, if you stay there too long, becomes a prison. It keeps you safe, but stuck. Surrounded, but small. Alive, but not truly living. So yes, leaving your comfort zone may feel scary, but it's the only place where purpose begins to breathe. Now that you've made the decision to step out, it's time to step in. Step into your purpose. Step into your calling. Step into the work that's already waiting for you to rise. Because here's the truth, you can dream big all day long. You can write it in journals, pin it on your vision board, speak it into the mirror, but dreams don't come true by accident. Purpose doesn't arrive like a gift at your front door, neatly wrapped with a bow. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly find yourself living the life you imagined. No, the path to transformation is built one step at a time. And it's not built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows through the small daily decisions you make when no one's watching. The quiet moments where you choose discipline over distraction, consistency over comfort. The times when it's easier to coast, but you choose to keep climbing. Success doesn't strike like lightning. It's not some magical moment where everything suddenly shifts. It's the outcome of 1,000 small choices repeated day after day, even when it feels like they don't matter. We all crave the breakthrough, that one defining moment that flips the script. But what we don't often see, breakthrough doesn't come without the groundwork. It's hidden in the details, the habits, the daily grind. The morning you get up early when your bed feels like a warm invitation. The late night you keep writing, praying, building when it would be easier to shut it all down. The moment you show up, even when no one claps. Even when it feels like no one cares. That's where real success is built. Some of you are still waiting for your breakthrough. But what if I told you your breakthrough is in your routine? It's not somewhere far off in the future. It's not waiting at the end of the year. It's in what you choose to do right now. Every time you decide to do the hard thing. Every time you fight to stay focused. Every time you get back up, even when it would be easier to sit this one out. You're laying the foundation for something greater than you can currently see. It might not look like much in the beginning. You might feel like you're running in circles. But don't be fooled. Progress is happening. Character is forming. Endurance is being built. Discipline is being etched into your spirit. And the crazy part. Sometimes it happens so quietly you don't even notice it. But just because it feels slow doesn't mean it's not working. The roots are going deep. The strength is being forged below the surface. That's what makes the difference. Not the hype, not the highlight reels, but the everyday grind that builds a foundation you can actually stand on. Here's what most people don't want to hear. You can't skip the process. You can't bypass the quiet seasons and still expect to carry the weight of greatness. You can't become a great leader, a powerful voice, a person of influence without putting in the hours nobody else sees. God doesn't bless shortcuts. He blesses consistency. He blesses the one who gets up when it's inconvenient, the one who stays faithful when there's no applause, the one who keeps showing up, keeps planting seeds even when there's no harvest yet in sight. And if that's you, keep going. You're not behind. You're being built. And that right there is where the blessing begins. Not in the spotlight, not in the breakthrough, but in the discipline of your daily habits. You want to change your life. Don't wait for a lightning strike of inspiration. Start with your routine. Start with the choices you make when no one's watching. Start with the small things, because the small things are what shape the big picture. Every single day, do something, anything that moves you one step closer to your goal. Even if it feels tiny. Even if it seems like it won't matter. Even if it looks like no one notices. Because I promise you it adds up. One small step leads to the next. That next step builds momentum. And momentum, when repeated, consistently builds strength. And that strength, over time, it compounds, it multiplies, it becomes visible, tangible, undeniable. Eventually, the fruit begins to show. You start to see the rewards of your consistency. You begin to walk in the confidence that only comes from earned growth. See, there's a divine law at work in the kingdom of God, a law of sowing and reaping, and it applies to every part of your life. Whether you're sowing seeds into your business, your relationships, your health, or your personal growth. What you plant in private, what you nurture in hidden moments, is what will be revealed in public. You can't reap a harvest where you haven't planted seeds. You can't expect success if you've never sown effort. You can't pray for breakthrough while ignoring the process. But here's the beautiful part. Even when it feels like your seeds are buried, even when it seems like nothing is happening above the surface, the harvest is still coming. It just takes time. And in that time, consistency is your lifeline. Consistency will carry you through the doubt, through the dry seasons, through the days when nothing feels like it's working. So stop waiting for perfect timing. Stop waiting for clarity to strike like a bolt of lightning. Stop convincing yourself that one day will be easier than today. Start now, right where you are, with what you have, with the strength and vision you've got in this very moment. Take one small step today, and then take another tomorrow. Don't wait for the perfect moment to show up. It may never come. But if you show up anyway, consistently, faithfully, quietly, you will one day look back and be amazed at how far you've come. You'll see it. The shift in your mindset, the growth in your discipline, the fruit of all those little moments you thought didn't matter. Because here's the truth. Success isn't a burst of energy. It's not a single event. It's the accumulation of showing up every day, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's painful, even when your motivation is nowhere to be found. That's why you've got to stay faithful in the small things. Because the small things are where the real transformation takes place. Your future. It's hidden in your daily routine. You want a better tomorrow. Move today. Push today. Discipline yourself today, and your future self will thank you for it. Now it's easy to get stuck in the fear of failure, to let that whisper of doubt creep in and make you believe you're falling behind. We've all been there. You feel like you're doing the work, but the progress is invisible. You wonder if it's even worth it. You wonder if you're enough. But let me remind you of something powerful. So if your breakthrough is hidden in your routine, then what's holding you back from showing up? For many, the answer is simple but powerful: fear. specifically the fear of failure. Let's talk about it, because this fear, it's not just inconvenient, it's a thief. Fear of failure creeps in quietly and convinces you to stop before you even start. It whispers lies like, what if you mess up? What if you're not good enough? What will people think if you try and fall flat? And the moment you let fear make your decisions, that's when it starts stealing your momentum. That's when it robs you of progress, growth, and purpose. Because failure itself isn't the problem. Fear of failure is. Failure is simply a moment, a lesson, a redirection, a teacher. It's not a verdict. It doesn't get to define who you are unless you hand it the pen. When something doesn't go the way you planned, it's not a declaration of your worth. It's an opportunity to grow, to learn, to adjust, to rise. Every successful person you admire, they've all failed. They've stumbled. They've missed the mark. But the difference is, they refused to stay down. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. They didn't let the moment of failure become the end of their story. What set them apart wasn't perfection. It was persistence. Because here's the truth. It's not the mistake that matters. It's your response to it. The greatest danger in life isn't falling, it's staying down. It's allowing one setback to become your stopping point. It's letting fear control your decisions and paralyze your purpose. The real failure isn't in trying and missing, it's in never trying at all. And if you've ever wondered how some people keep going, keep rising, keep showing up, no matter what they face, it's because they've learned how to reframe failure. They don't see failure as a reflection of their identity. They see it as part of the journey, a necessary companion in growth, a signal that they're stretching beyond their limits. And that's what you need to embrace today. Because some of the greatest victories in life are born out of the greatest challenges. Some of the strongest people you know, those who inspire you with their courage, they've been through the fire. They've felt the sting of rejection, the weight of doubt, and the heaviness of fear. But they didn't let it define them. They let it refine them. They walked through the fear. They learned from the failure. And because they did, they emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. But that didn't happen by accident. It happened because they made a decision. A decision that you can make today. You have to choose to get back up every single time you fall. To say, even if I fail again, I'm still moving forward. To understand that what defines you is not the fall, but the fight inside of you. You've got to silence the voice that says, what if I fail again? And replace it with, what if I grow from this? Because you will fail. Sometimes that's a part of the journey. But if you keep trying, if you keep moving, then failure doesn't define you, your consistency does. Your faith, your grit, your decision to keep going. We all have those moments of doubt. Moments when we question if we're really cut out for this calling. But let me remind you, God has already equipped you. Everything you need is already inside you. And He's not just with you when it's easy, He's with you in the storm, in the stretch, in the silent seasons, even when you can't see the doors opening, even when the path ahead is unclear. He is guiding you, so don't let fear trap you. Don't let the fear of failure keep you frozen. That fear, it's just smoke and mirrors. Every time you step out in faith, even when you're scared, you're declaring, failure doesn't own me. Fear doesn't define me. And yes, there will always be critics. There will always be voices, external and internal, saying it's too much, too late, too risky. But their opinions don't determine your outcome. Your faith, your determination, your refusal to quit, that's what will carry you through. So take the step, even if it's shaky, even if your hands are trembling and your heart is pounding. And when you fall, learn. When you fail, grow. But whatever you do, don't stop. Because just on the other side of that fear, just past that last fall, is the breakthrough you've been praying for. Let go of the fear. Step into your purpose. And keep moving forward no matter what.